Insightly is an all-in-one business management system. It combines CRM, marketing automation, service, and they also have a low-code integration platform. In this video, we'll focus on Insightly's CRM, which brings together contact management, email syncing, pipelines, and some light project management. We'll break down Insightly's core features, we'll talk about its pricing, its pros, and its cons to help you determine if this is the right software for you. Hey, I'm Dan Lehman from SoftwareFinds.com, and I've run an agency for the past 3 years where we've helped over 300 businesses choose the right software for them and get it integrated and automated in their business. Come check out our website where we've built custom tools to help you review and compare the best software platforms out there. Okay, to start us off, I want to tell you something a little bit humorous. I was watching an Insightly review. Of course, it's a little bit biased, right? When a company reviews their own software, gives a demo of their software. And in it, they were talking about, hey, for our companies, we can give you localized insights about your companies. And the feature they were describing about these localized insights, if I open up a company here, is that they have these little widgets on the side where you can see the local weather for the company as well as the local time. Now, if you're much younger than me, you probably won't remember this time, but back in like the 2010s, they had something called iGoogle where you had all of these different widgets that you could add to your home screen, and you could add weather and different clocks from around the world. And this is the same feeling I get when I look at this feature. Now, I always try to give as unbiased of reviews as possible. I think what you're going to find with Insightly is that on one hand, it's really easy to use. There's not a lot of things that you have to do in weird clicks and weird places. Like, it's pretty standard and easy to function. But then there's also things that make you kind of scratch your head and you're wondering like, hey, has this been updated since, kind of the 2015 time range? And I started thinking about this because kind of that 2015 time range is when I started in CRM consulting. I was on the Microsoft Dynamics platform at that point in time. And Dynamics really kind of felt similar, and so did Salesforce. So there's kind of this like point in time, and I'm not saying they haven't made updates since then, but I think you'll find there's just like a number of things that kind of feel like they're a little bit outdated. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our contacts and contact management. Now, we could take a look at leads as well. They're going to function very similarly. We really only have the main difference being our qualification process. But let's open up a contact, and we can see we've got this nice kind of convenient widget that pops out from the side. So if we're working on a lot of contacts, we don't necessarily have to go deep into that record. We can see all of the details right up front. I really like that we can see any won opportunities over here on the side. So we've got some core information. One of those features that feels a little bit funky is in the settings, they have something you can toggle on to say, hey, you can do inline editing. And by inline editing, what they mean is you can click on a single field and then update it and press a check mark to save that record, as opposed to if you want to edit everything, then you click this and it takes it out of the core experience. So you basically have a special form to be able to update the record. And again, this just kind of feels like an old way of doing things. There's no reason we need to in modern web development, but this is just kind of how things were done at a certain point in time. Here we've got access to comments. We can leave comments. We've got a little WYSIWYG editor. We can use an @ symbol and tag people in the comments if we want to. That's always a helpful feature. We've got our related records over here. So you can see we've got an opportunity and we can connect these to projects or other contacts that are in the system. I do like that if we are adding contacts, then we can give them different relationship roles. Again, something that doesn't happen in all CRMs, but this is just a nice way if you want to really kind of visualize hierarchical type relationships. You can add notes and files. I find this convenient that you can connect to, say, Google Drive or Dropbox and be able to relate those files. You can add notes. This one made me chuckle again. You can use Evernote. Not sure the last time that people have used Evernote. And then we also have a separate area for our activities up here. And so we can add different kinds of activities like tasks, events, and sending an email. If we send an email, we can connect into our email, be it Outlook or Gmail. I'm currently syncing with my Gmail. And the other nice thing that you can do is that you can actually do mass emails or bulk emails. So we could select multiple records here, then press send email. Now this looks like it's going to send one ginormous email to all these people. It actually is just kind of informing me, and then we'll get through to our next step. We can choose an email template. We can create our own. I'll just do this inbound response here. So this pulls in those kind of mail merge fields. We could add attachments if we want to. And then when we go to the next screen to preview it, this is where we can iterate over the individual contacts. And that's where you see the mail merge fields actually showing you the values that are injected. So each person's going to receive their own email, but you're able to send out these bulk or mass emails, and you've got a different quantity depending on what plan you're on. But then when it comes to calendar sync, when I tried to set this up with my calendar, I go through and I authenticate, and then this says the app is blocked. And this is never a good thing. Now, granted, I'm on a free trial. I don't know exactly how they've set this up, but I've seen a few companies go through this process and it's not a lot of fun. So I'm not sure if this is a widespread thing impacting Insightly, but definitely going through the trial myself was not the best experience. Now, Insightly does have a Chrome extension, and you can use this as well for handling email and syncing contacts. So here I'm in an email and it recognizes that there are multiple people here, and some of them are added to the CRM already and others aren't. So I could add someone new to the CRM by clicking this button, and then it has the very basic information they pulled from the email. I could add in additional information, say choose the organization if it already exists. We can create that as a contact or as a lead. And then here we see the details for an existing record in the CRM once it's created. So here I'm on the details. I can go to related to see any related records or add links to records. So here I've got the organization that's already created, or I could add links to, say, a new opportunity. I could click on activity and I could add a new activity like an event or task. Let me click into my organization here. And if I wanted to edit the details that show here and I press the edit button, then it's going to open up a new tab and take me into the CRM itself. So I don't really love how that functions. I would hope that we could do that directly from the Chrome extension itself. So it is nice that this add-in is available to add contacts from my email, but I have to say after testing dozens of CRMs that this is probably one of the least useful Chrome extensions. Let's head back into the web application, and now I'm looking at leads. And leads, typically in most CRMs, you go through a qualification process where you say, hey, this lead is potentially interested in doing business with us, and that's when we create an opportunity or a deal from that, and usually creates the contact and account as well. So I can open an existing lead. This pulls open their information. I do like how we can see the different process steps throughout here, and then I can click to convert it. And this will take me to my screen where we can have our own logic set up of how we want this to work, which is nice. This is a good feature of the CRM. We can create a new opportunity. I can assign it to myself. We can say who to link this to. So if there's an existing contact, we can do that. Or we can link it to a new contact. Same thing with the organization. And then we can choose which pipeline does this become part of and which stage is this going to be in. We can also add a task for ourselves if we want to have a reminder of something to do in relation to this opportunity. From here, we can go to our opportunities. We're looking at all of our opportunities. I should say that we can create our own lists that are filtered and sorted different ways. So if we want to look at all open opportunities versus all opportunities, we can do that. And I do like that we have this nice visualization for what stage in the pipeline that they're currently in. You do have the option to look at your opportunities in a grid or a Kanban view as well. So we can click on this, and now we can see all of our deals, their stages that they're in, and this sums up the revenue at the top. It also adds this little yellow triangle icon if you don't have scheduled next steps for this opportunity. If we open up an opportunity, then similar to how we had the lead conversion step where we could convert that lead to an opportunity, similarly, we have an action where we can then convert this opportunity to a project once it's been sold. And then projects have their own list view, or we could make a Kanban for it as well. And they have their own pipelines associated with it. So you could have different stages or milestones of that project. Now, the projects themselves, if we open this up, it feels just like any other record type. This is very much light project management. It's not a whole project management system, but you can have those related records. So you can have contacts and you can have tasks related to that project. I do like that there's a time tracking feature for these projects, so we can add time entry to the projects that we're working on. When we choose a project, then we can see them in here. What I don't like is that they're not super discoverable. You can type a letter and then it'll search based on that. But it's hard for me just to find the projects that I want unless I already know the name of the project. So I would think there'd be better functionality like, hey, show me the projects that are assigned to me or that I'm a related person to this record. And it's really not like that. Same thing with the tasks. How do you know what task you're logging time to? Well, I don't know. Why don't you just type in a random letter, start searching for those tasks? So again, not super awesome functionality. You can start a timer and then you can stop a timer and log time to that accordingly. Now, there are additional features for products and price books and quotes, but those are restricted to the enterprise plan and aren't even accessible within the free trial. My absolute favorite feature of Insightly is their dashboards. If I go to the home screen, this is pretty cool. Check out the animations, the color, the clarity. I'm pretty blown away by what they can do. Here you've got a sales pipeline that's actually shaped like a pipeline. You wouldn't believe how many CRMs can't do that. And then I can click into any of these individual tiles as well. What I'd really love to see, and maybe there's a way and I just don't see it, but when I'm actually in here, I can't click in further. I want to see the opportunities that actually make this up as opposed to just this summary level. So it might be possible, but I'm not seeing a way right off the bat. And if their reports and dashboards aren't enough, you can create your own with your own custom cards on here. And this is really powerful, both the number of different visualizations that we have to choose from, all of the data that we can set. We can do this across all of our different modules here. So this reporting is pretty sweet baked into the rest of the application. And of course, for any CRM, you're going to want to make sure that they have a decent mobile application. So I've downloaded this from the App Store. So I've got my home screen where I can see my dashboards. And then we can see any of our modules over here on the side. So if we want to take a look at those contacts, open them up, we can see a list of all of our details and tab over to our related. We could dig into our opportunity here. So it's pretty a similar experience compared to when we're actually on the web. We've got our activities, and we can actually use this to help us logging some activities too. So for example, I could click on the phone icon and let's start a call. We'll give that a call. This will just use my main stock dialer, and then I'll end that call. So this will automatically prompt us to log that information. And so it's got a title already pre-populated for us with a description. And so we've got the option then to say, yep, let's go ahead and log that call. Next, let's talk about workflow automation. So if I come into my settings, we can see workflow automation, and then we set up this process, and this is basically the trigger. So we want this to run on creation of a contact and every edit of that contact. And then we can have some kind of branching logic. We basically have criteria here, and I'm just messing with this to see what I could get. So basically, if this field equals this value, then we're going to have that run, and then we can edit this criteria. And we can add what are called immediate actions. So we've got options to add a task, send an email, add a new record, add a new webhook. That'll be helpful if you're trying to integrate with external systems or to update the record. And then you can also add time triggers as well, which is basically to have some kind of wait condition then before that action happens. So you can do this based on when we actually created the contact, the updated date, or date of birth. That's pretty specific, but I guess if you want to do like a happy birthday kind of automation, you can do it that way. Also under automation, we have Lambda functions. This is pretty crazy. So if you want to have like some custom code that runs when some event happens, we can do that with these Lambda functions, but that's only available on the enterprise plan, yet still something pretty powerful. We've got activity sets. I would describe these as templates of tasks and things, basically. So if you say, hey, every time a new project is created, if it's this kind of project, we want to automatically create these 10 tasks. That's what these activity sets are for. And then we also have lead assignment rules. So if you want to say, hey, let's round robin the assignment of these leads as they come in, then you would use this. Let's talk about some other customization type things. We can have custom objects and fields. The custom objects are only available on the professional or higher plan. So we can see the different objects that we have out of the box. We can create a new custom object if we have access to it. And then if we want to add our own custom fields, like maybe I want to add some fields to this contact, I can go to my object fields. And this is where I could create a new field and these are the different options I have to choose from. So we've got quite a few options here. I think the most noticeable thing missing is computed fields or calculated fields. These are basically formulas. Like if you think of Excel and you have formulas, these kinds of formulas or computed fields you only get access to on the enterprise plan. So I kind of think that is a miss, but again, that's their decision on how they want to restrict it. You can also have field dependencies. So maybe you say, hey, if it's this type of contact, then fill out this other information. So that's nice to have these dependencies. This is a pretty advanced feature here, or I should say it's advanced for this style of CRM. It's not advanced if you compare it to like a no-code system, but you can create your own custom layouts of how you want this to appear on the contact object itself. So create your own layout so that you've got a really nice flow of the application. We can also create our own search layout, so we can basically tell it which fields we should search against when we perform a search. And then we can create our own custom buttons as an additional option. And it looks like we only have two different types of button actions. One is if you just want to open up like an external link to something, or if you have a webhook endpoint. So again, if we have some external system, we click that button to then trigger that process. We can do it that way. As I mentioned, we can create different mappings for our lead conversion mapping. We can do the same thing with our opportunities. We can create multiple pipelines, each with their own stages, and edit the stages as well. They also have document templates. So if you want to upload like a Word doc, and then you can use basically same kind of mail merge type functionality to map those fields so that you can create documents, like if you were doing something like quotes. When it comes to forms, you have essentially two options. You've got web to lead or web to contact. So basically you can create a contact form on your website or a lead form on your website. So if someone enters that information, it automatically creates a lead. Now, if we take a look at this, we've got some notification settings, and you can enable reCAPTCHA to make sure you're not getting a bunch of spam. And then here we can click to create HTML for your website. You can choose what fields that you want from that record. But this is kind of strange to me. Any modern form builder is going to give you actual solid embed options and CSS in formatting. This is basically just like a raw HTML form. And then you have to do the rest, or else it looks super ugly on your website. So I don't know. This seems like something that could really use some obvious updating. Now, when it comes to integrations, we've got these 4 integrations for QuickBooks, MailChimp, PandaDoc, and Xero. And then we've got this option to view all integrations. Now, if I click on view all integrations, I see, wow, we've got 28 pages of integrations. But the thing with this is that these integrations are part of App Connect, which is actually a separate product. So if you come to products and you go to App Connect, and then actually we could go to the pricing page and take a look at App Connect. So this is basically like a low code integration platform. And so there's lots of these out there, right? There's Zapier and Make and lots of other options too. But you can see the pricing for this is pretty expensive. $249 per account per month is the minimum pricing for that. So this to me, basically, at least the way I interpret this is that, hey, your email, your calendar, we take care of that. And then we've got these 4 integrations. And then the rest of the integrations, you basically have to pay for our other additional integration platform. Now, the good part is that you have options. You don't have to pay them for that platform. You could go out and say, use Zapier. And from within Zapier, you're going to then have triggers, and this will be similar to the workflow automations. So if there's a new record, a deleted record, an updated record, and then actions that we can do, which are to create records, update records, and find records. So presumably, we can do this within the handful of modules that we have access to within the system. And if you need more robust access than Zapier, they also do have an API as well. That API is available on all the plans, which is great. I would say the API seems a little bit dated to me in terms of, you can see for something like contacts, look how many different endpoints that we have just for a contact. And so, for example, you have to actually make a different call. It looks like if you want to get the contact's image, well, that's this call. If you have a custom image field, well, now you got to make a separate call to get the custom image. So you can get a contact, and that includes kind of the core fields here, but then it seems like there's all of these additional API calls that we need to make if we really want the full information from that contact. Next, let's talk about pricing. Insightly doesn't offer a free plan, but they do offer a free trial. On their support pages, they talk about offering both monthly and annual plans. And I could be missing something, but as I look at the site, maybe this is something that they're split testing, I don't actually see two different options for that. I see that these are all billed annually, and I don't see a toggle like you would on most sites where you can actually then switch over to monthly. So maybe it's possible, maybe you have to work through sales. I guess I don't see that right off the top. So we've got Plus, Professional, and Enterprise, $29, $49, and $99 per user per month. And let's compare these features. So what I do like is that most features you're getting access to on all plans, or it seems like kind of the really core features. So you can see some things with lead assignment and routing, scheduling outbound, then that's going to push you to professional. Some of the customization areas, such as the number of role-based permissions, pushes you to professional. The number of custom fields, but you get quite a few anyways, might do it. You don't get those custom page layouts early on in the least expensive plan. So you can see it's a lot of the customization things that then might move you up to the most expensive plan. Again, we see the calculated fields like we talked about, the products, price books, and quotes. So overall, compared to other SMB plans, this is a pretty high entry point. You're going to find a lot of other CRMs that let you in the door for a lower price point, and then they move their way up to enterprise at that $100 a month, which is a little bit on the higher end, but isn't crazy compared to some of the other platforms. And I do like that it's mostly customization kinds of things that are going to push you into that highest tier. Now, while we can just purchase the CRM by itself for those prices, they also have an all-in-one solution, which is going to include their marketing automation, that App Connect for the integrations, and then basically customer support and ticketing. You can get all of those for one subscription price. Now, this is starting at these values. The nice thing about this Insightly all-in-one packaging is that you're paying. This is the system cost to get all of that all in one. So you're getting a discount baked in. Now, this isn't your per user costs. And so this can be valuable, especially if you go from just being a couple of users to kind of being a mid-sized company, then you probably are getting this at a better rate than if you were purchasing all the pieces separately by themselves. So this might be something that you think about, especially if you want to grow with this platform in the future. So let's check out the SoftwareFinds.com website so you can get an idea of where this kind of sits. So of course, we're adding new reviews all the time. Insightly right now sits at 8 out of 11 as we're going through these. Now, value, what we typically mean is the amount, the features that you're getting for the price that you're paying it for. And we find that this is kind of on the lower to mid-end side of things as compared to other platforms. And then impact is on the other side. You can see the kinds of questions that we ask around impact. And this especially is going to be like, as you move up, as your organization grows, is this going to be the right platform that can kind of keep up with you? And that again is going to be kind of towards the middle as well. Configurability, this is decently configurable. One of the things is those custom objects being shifted into their enterprise plan. That always is a little bit restrictive, but it's nice that we have API access early on. Ease of use, I think this is going to be lower compared to others. Ease of use as a whole, I think the platform is actually very easy to use. The user interface, like we talked about, is pretty dated in such a way that it feels like everything was built at an earlier point in time, and so you might not get quite as much value that way. And then they are very transparent about their pricing. So you can see how that stacks up. Now, if we come over here to our charts, we can compare these different categories against one another. So for example, if we look at value against configurability, we're sitting kind of in the middle here, and you can change these criteria around to view this in a way that makes the most sense to you. So who is Insightly CRM a good fit for? I think if you're a services-based company and you need some light project management with CRM thrown in, then this is pretty cool that these are combined without having to purchase two separate platforms. If you're looking for an all-in-one solution and you have more than just a couple of users, I think this could be a pretty affordable play too if you're looking to encompass the rest of the functionality. And I think this is a platform to consider if you kind of like traditional type CRMs like Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics, but you don't have quite the same budget, then I think Insightly is one to look at as well. On the other hand, I don't think Insightly is the right fit for you if you are a small, just a couple person company, because there are more affordable solutions that are out there. I also don't think it scales on the higher end. There's going to be other solutions you might want to look at, such as HubSpot. And I think if you're looking for a modern CRM with a modern user interface, there's probably better options for you. The irony of that statement is that they literally brand their CRM with grow faster with the modern CRM that teams love. So we'll leave that there and leave that for you to decide. If after watching this video, you're still not sure what the best CRM is for you, please check out our other videos where we have lots of reviews and comparisons.